It is another edition of Tuesday Takes with Robbie Triano of SiriusXM here on Locked On Big 12. We will discuss Spencer Sanders, the league MVP, ? Texas Tech having a very fun and interesting season. Neal Brown is a time to go. And then Baylor. What in the heck? How do we handicap a team that is so up and down? It's all coming up next.
You are Locked On Big 12, your daily podcast on the Big 12 Conference. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Once again, Josh Neighbors here, Locked On Big 12 podcast. Make sure you guys subscribe to the channel. We are on the road to 2,500 right now, less than 100 away, trying to make it there by the end of the month. So help us achieve that goal by subscribing today. All right, Robbie. This is another fun week in the Big 12. Would I argue two of the most fun, weird games of the day? Texas and Oklahoma State was that was probably the game of the day, in my opinion. And also you had the Kansas State TCU game that happened, which was just weird. It was almost like two separate football games were happening in that one. And we're going to start with the Oklahoma State game. And you've got some thoughts on our guy, Spencer Sanders, and about, is he the league's MVP?
Yeah, 100%. And when I look at this team defensively, I don't think they're some crazy team. They are currently littered with injuries across the board defensively and offensively, but they have one constant, and that is Spencer Sanders. And he's a quarterback I think we have loved to just critique and hate on the past couple of years. And he's shown some really good things throughout his career. Like, he was a first-team All Big 12 quarterback. The quarterback play was really bad, so that made sense. But this year, we are seeing a true version of him that I didn't think was possible. What he can do with his arm, and especially what he can do with his legs. And the fact that Oklahoma State is 6-1 and really, I don't think should be. There's games they should have lost, and he has the ability to carry that team. And we said before the season, if he can put his team on his back, then they can be really good. But we didn't think he could do that, and he is showing it this year. And I think he is the league's MVP because if we look across the league, let's start at TCU. We can say Max Duggan is the best offensive player in the league right now, but I think if he goes down, they have a lot of other talent there. They're going to be fine. Like, Chandler Morris is a serviceable quarterback. Let's go to another team. Let's say Kansas State. Deuce Vaughn. Okay, well, they have Adrian Martinez, and Adrian Martinez goes down. They have other pieces there. I think if Oklahoma State loses Spencer Sanders, that team is nowhere where they are now, and they should be really thankful. And it's amazing that we are finally getting to see this amazing version of Spencer Sanders, who is not, if he turns over the ball, I'm not afraid that that's going to be the end of him. Like, he had a turnover against Texas in a really crucial spot, but they still managed to make it work. And he is a tough MFer, like he said. So I've loved what I've seen from Spencer Sanders this year, and Oklahoma State deserves a lot of credit.
Yeah, I mean, the toughness for him is off the charts right now. I mean, it is pretty clear he's been injured, and from all reporting, he's not really practicing, right? And he didn't practice, and they had him throw the ball 57 times. That's really difficult. But I mean, he's like you said, we talked to Brennan Presley yesterday on Big 12 radio, and he said, that's what Spencer said. I'm a tough, MFer. And I think Mike Gundy knows that. It's all right, if you're going to play, I'm going to make you, you're going to be Spencer Sanders. And I think he's totally fine with that. And yeah, I mean, they're nowhere near where they are. They have a different quarterback, and also it's because their quarterback, I mean, they're a team that's got some questions, quarterback depth. But I think it's really interesting how he went from game manager last year. And that was partially out of need, partially out of it just was better to put the reins on him, it felt like at times. But he went from, game manager to now focal point. I mean, he is the focal point of the offense, especially because their running game has really struggled. I did like actually what we saw last week from Ollie Gordon and Jaden Nixon. I thought was pretty impressive when Dom Richardson went down. But yeah, I mean, he's a big part of the rushing offense. Obviously, he's a trigger man on the passing offense. And I think a part of this too is he's showing a lot of that skill that he has, because we're talking about a lot of different wide receivers for him right now. I mean, they've got a ton of depth, but also a lot of that wide receiver quarterback stuff is relationship building. And so the fact that he has been able to plug in guys, whether it's Presley or, whether they've got to deal with, John Paul Richardson, or that's going to be Johnson. I mean, they've got guys, Bryson Green, they've got guys all across the board that are having really impressive games, and now having some freshmen have to come in and play too. he's distributing the football well to these guys. And so you can just tell the leadership is there. Yeah, I think there's no doubt. I mean, it's the most valuable position in professional sports, and it's pretty clear, like out of this entire league. I think you might say, hey, Dylan Gabriel, you saw what happened, but like we're talking about, you have to add performance plus value, right? We're talking about a most valuable player. We're not just like, what would happen if you remove player X? It's like, all right, we've got guys who you could say are most valuable, right? We have TCU, we've got Kansas State, we've got Texas, Oklahoma State. And then once you set that plateau of performance, then you say, all right, who's the most valuable to their team, right? And I think you're totally spot on with it being Spencer.
Yeah, and when I look at him, I think not only is he the MVP of the league right now, but like I really think he should be in considerable Heisman candidate, like a candidate. I think he should. From what he is showing right now with the team's success, him being the MVP of that team, and also like his statistics. Like when we look at the league, he is currently first in passing yards in the entire league, 2,030 passing yards. He has 15 touchdowns, 4 interceptions. And then you look at his rushing stats. I mean, right now, he has 8 rushing touchdowns. That is the most he's ever had in his entire career, and he's about, I don't know. He still has a lot of game left. We are seeing this version of himself right now. He is currently elevating this team to that spot. That's what we said about Jalen Daniels early in the season, and I think Oklahoma State should be a team that if they run the rest of the season should be in college football playoff consideration. That's it.
I agree with that. That's something that I talked about yesterday. It's like they lost to the right team at the right time, right? I think the best possible scenario for them is TCU wins out. They obviously have to win out, and they get another crack at TCU in the Big 12 championship game. Now, they might need some help, but I think it's really interesting about the Spencer Sanders MVP thing. Like, I'm not sure he's going to win Offensive Player of the Year, especially Robbie, if TCU, if they continue with the run they're on and win this league and total touchdowns. Matt, I think you're totally right with the assessment. TCU's got more around the quarterback than Oklahoma State has around the quarterback. And Duggan's numbers, he's actually got 23 touchdowns right now, same number total as Sanders has. But if you do stack those two up, and this is not supposed to demean Max Duggan at all. It's just like, yeah, Spencer, and also story-wise too, this guy took a leap. Like we were like, could he ever do it? Will he ever actually do this thing? And he's doing it. And sure, there's turnovers along the way. It's not like we're doing this Adrian Martinez bit where it's like no picks. He's got no picks. It's like no, there's that in there. But like you mentioned, like he's not becoming a repeat offender within certain games, right? No game this year where he's had multi interceptions. And look, that's been something, it can snowball on him. Big 12 championship game, right? Other games against Baylor, it really snowballs him in those games. I think we're right on here about this. But I think, while you're right, yeah, you should be a Heisman candidate. It doesn't really matter because Stroud's blown everybody out of the water. But I'm not even sure at this pace he's going to win Big 12 Offensive Player of the Year. But I think in terms of like most valuable player, performance plus value, he is the one. He is the one.
So I want to have a conversation on that because I was a preseason voter for the Big 12 awards, and
yes.
For what I'm thinking, like what will the voters do for this awards coming up? Because I wouldn't be surprised if Max Duggan won Offensive Player of the Year, but did not win QB1, which is very strange to say because I think a lot of people, when it comes to Offensive Player of the Year, they go stats heavy with that.
Right.
And like for QB1, it's hard to be like, I think Spencer Sanders is the most important QB in this entire league. I think honestly, he is like, if I were in charge of a team, if I could pick Max Duggan or Spencer Sanders, I would rather have Spencer Sanders. Like I can live with those mistakes that he makes because the things he can do with their legs are both very good with that.
Mm-hmm.
But what he can do, I think, is honestly like he's just more athletically gifted than Max Duggan.
Correct.
So
it's a little bit choppier. I mean, Max is a good athlete, but it looks a little choppier. Spencer, I've always said this. He's very fluid. Like everything he does normally is like very fluid. Like the way he cuts, the way he moves. Max can be a bit more, smash mouth at times. Just a bit more size on him. But I mean, he's fast. He's fast too. I actually don't think we talk about how fast Max Duggan is enough. But like, it's like Jalen Daniels versus Jason Bean, right? Like Duggan, when he gets going downhill, it's really impressive. But Jalen Daniels has more wiggle to him. I think that's kind of almost like these two we're seeing right here.
And honestly, from what I'm seeing from this season, like I think Spencer Sanders can like have a nice career in the NFL.
I think so too. Yeah.
Like I honestly think he probably won't have a better career in the NFL because I don't know if he's going to start early on. But like I think what he can do to extend drives, like that will work in any place.
As a
And that's
backup
why,
too, especially.
that's why, like when we have these conversations, like Peter Burns will say something like, "Oh, the SEC, no one can touch the SEC teams right now."
Right.
But it comes to like the Big 12 and Spencer Sanders could play against any team in the country and I think could have success. Yes,
Yeah.
he failed against Baylor in the past couple of years, but like what we're seeing right now, he can succeed against any defense right now. And I really
Yeah.
think he is. And like, I also want to give credit to Oklahoma State's receivers. I think they have a pretty loaded group. Brendan Presley, Braden Johnson, who was hurt last game. You have Bryson Green. Like this is a team that like has good weapons.
John Paul Richardson too. And the Johnson kid's gonna be good. And Shetron got concussed last game. That kid's a freshman, supposed to be really good too.
I want to give Mike Gundy credit. Like this is a team that like never succeeds recruiting wise compared to the rest of the league, but they are tough. They grow you from within. It's a developmental program, and I think they have the depth, which is just incredible for a program like Oklahoma State that does not recruit the 4 or 5 stars. They have 3 stars. You grow within that program. They don't even really take in transfers, which is kind of amazing. It's like once you're there, you're kind of there.
Right.
Like they want you to be there. And I think Mike Gundy's even said, like, I rather do that than to do what everyone else is doing to just take a recruit. So like, I want to give credit to Mike Gundy, but I also want to give credit to like, he never really punted on Spencer Sanders.
He never wavered. He never wavered once.
And that's like amazing coaching. That's amazing coaching because there's times we want to be like, you stink. But then like he just continues to grow and grow and grow and get better. And now he's reaching his apex level. It's an awesome story what's happening to Spencer Sanders based on like how everyone wants to dunk on him in prior years.
I mean, also he's overcoming the worst defense. Like they actually have the worst defense in the league in terms of like yards allowed and stuff like that. All right. The team that allegedly is my least favorite team in the league. Not sure how that happened.
Really?
So, people have said that I am a Texas Tech hater. I mentioned this to you, Robbie, yesterday. They said that that I need to apologize to players and to the program and to the coaches because I was wrong about how good their defense. Guys, their defense is not good. Like this West Virginia game it really is going to help the numbers. I watched the game against NC State. I enjoyed that a little bit. That was like a fine defensive effort. We talked, Robbie, about this too, and Joey McGuire has mentioned this too. They aren't turning teams over enough on the defensive end. So don't come to me and be like, this defense is awesome. They got some playmakers in the defense. They have playmakers, I believe, at all 3 levels of the defense. All right. They got Merriweather. They got Tyree Wilson. I forget the kid's name in the back end. He's the one guy who seems to be forcing some turnovers. Like they've got guys that can force turnovers in this defense, or that can force turnovers. They aren't doing enough. They got guys that make plays, but they need some more help. That being said, Robbie, I've said this about Texas Tech. If you beat them, that means that you are really good. All right. That means you're just not really good. That means you're good. All right. Because if you look at the way their season has transpired, that loss against NC State, that was a full strength NC State. It's probably the best game NC State played this year. Was still a 2-score loss on the road with a backup quarterback, Donovan Smith out there. All right. And then I'm trying to think about the Kansas State loss. They were tied in the 4th quarter on the road. All right. And then they didn't get blown out in that game. Let's see. I'm trying to think who else they lost. They had 3 losses, don't they? Oh, Oklahoma State, 10-point game. That thing was close towards the end. Like, yeah, you can pull away from them a little bit in the end, but you have to. I like the fact that you got to beat this team. They don't have first-year head coach vibes. That's not what they give off to me.
Totally. And I think Joey McGuire actually inherited a pretty good roster. Like he had a bowl-winning roster.
Yes.
Like that team won a bowl game last year against Mississippi State. It's not
Correct.
like a New Year's Six bowl team, but they won a bowl game. And he inherits this roster, and he inherits, honestly, I think the best QB room in the entire Big 12 when it comes to depth. Like you can say what you want about Donovan Smith, but like I think a team like Kansas would really like to have a quarterback like that right now. Jason Bean's good, but I think Donovan Smith can do some things. But now you have Baron Morton, who is like, thank you. Like this quarterback is awesome. Like this is what a Texas Tech quarterback should be like. And the fact that we have him for the future is awesome. But the reason I think Texas Tech isn't done causing chaos is because honestly, the 2 Big 12 games that they lost are against, my opinion, top 3 Big 12 teams, Kansas State and Oklahoma State, and you battle against them. And then you destroy West Virginia. I'm talking destroy West Virginia. And now you have Baylor, who you are favored against, and then you have TCU. If you can win those 2 games, honestly, like it's not crazy to think that Texas Tech can somehow sneak into the Big 12 title game They're end the season, Kansas at Iowa State versus Oklahoma. And here's how they can do that. Because they have the offense with the quarterback in Baron Morton. They have a defense that can be feisty. But the thing is, they are now going to this final stretch of the season against teams that are probably going to be a little tired, especially TCU. And this is an amazing stat. Right now, plays per game, offensively, Texas Tech is number 1 in the country, and it's not close. Not close at all. Right now, they're averaging 97.2 plays per game. Number 2 in the entire country is Oklahoma State with 83.7. There's a 14-play difference. And the fact that they are able to stay on the field and wear teams out like that, and they are more than willing to go for it on fourth down. I think they're currently, them or Baylor is first in the league right now on fourth down attempts. Like, this is a team that right now is going to be a pain in everyone's butt. And I think that they have a very realistic shot at making a bowl game. And also, I just think that TCU game in a couple weeks, that's going to be a major, major game. And that might be my favorite game that week because, like, I don't even know if TCU can win that. And we know how good TCU is. So right now, if you're a Texas Tech fan, one, you have to be ecstatic about your future with Baron Morton, Joey McGuire. But second, like, you can actually do some damage to this, like, bottom half of the Big 12 schedule.
Yeah, I think for them, you know, I'm not going to go as far as you did with like maybe sneaking to the Big 12 championship game. The problem is they've got losses to Kansas State and Oklahoma State, right? So in a tiebreaker situation, that might hurt you.
But if you get 2 losses, like if those are their only 2 losses in Big 12 play, like it's not crazy to think.
Yes, it's not crazy to think, but the problem is, what if one of those teams is you are tied with, right? That is the ultimate issue. I will say this about them, like, look, we're watching Bailey's app right now. Let me tell you something, folks. If you're a Texas Tech fan, like give Zach Kitley a hug. I'm not sure he's gonna be around very long. What he does offensively works. Think about how we got here, right? Houston Baptist, okay? They were there. That's where Bailey's app was. That's what Zach Kitley was. Where'd they go next? Western Kentucky. It worked. Where'd they go next? Texas Tech. Well, not only did it work at Western Kentucky, people forget this. Bailey's app broke Joe Burrow's record for most touchdown passes thrown in a season. All right. And I know it's all whatever conference. Yeah. But like, there's no, you know, we're not throwing to Jefferson and Moss and Jamar Chase. We're not throwing to those guys. And now at Texas Tech, and it's clearly working too. And like, if you're a quarterback, you want to go play for this guy. You want to go play for this guy. And I think they got to make sure, you know, even when he leaves, they keep this thing rolling. But right now, I think what we're seeing this year is obviously Joey McGuire did a great job of keeping these guys there. He did a great job of hiring coaches, it looks like, right? And I know they want more of their defense. He's doing a good job recruiting. And so, like, this is plus. And look, I said that at the start of the year, I was like, if this team goes 5-7, it might be a really impressive 5-7. I think they're going to do better than that, right? I mean, they're now sitting at 4-3. Baylor game is going to be tough, but they're at home. TCU game on the road is going to be tough. Kansas at home, at Iowa State, Oklahoma. I mean, yeah, this team should win 6 games. If they go 2-3 the rest of the way, they're in a bowl game, and I think it's a really good place to be. And maybe even go 7-5 this year. So, and look, they're going to have a chance to have a say in somehow how some teams, you know, they asked some serious questions of Texas about early loss that they handed them. They might get Neal Brown fired. That kind of felt like the straw that broke the camel's back, right? I think that he'll keep going, but I think that, and we'll get to that in a second, that was kind of the moment. And now I think that they're probably feeling pretty dangerous, Robbie. They're probably feeling pretty dangerous.
Yeah, and I think this is a team right now that like has so much momentum, and we talk about the new Big 12. This is a team and program I've said multiple times I think should be a top 5 program in the new Big 12 because I think they have an amazing guy leading that. He is like, the thing about Joey McGuire, I have no idea what he does X's and O's wise. Like, I don't know what schematically he likes to do and everything. I see him as the CEO figure who gets great people around him, and then he gets awesome players to come into his program. Right. And it's looking like it's already working. So, like, Texas Tech fans, you should be ecstatic about that. But I don't see Zach Kitley, like, running away from this. Like, he has ties to Texas Tech. His dad is a coach at Texas Tech, or was a famous coach there. He did track and field there. And also, like, I think he wants to see Baron Morton grow a little bit more as well. And
he wants to see that bank account grow. He wants to see that bank account grow too, though, Robbie. I mean, it's. I think the results now, it's kind of telling. And look, I understand that, but I think sooner or later he's going to go. And people get mad at me for saying this, but like, I mean, it's working everywhere he's going now. It's kind of it's a thing. It is a thing.
Yes. And right now, Zach Kitley is only 31 years old. So, like, he has time to, like, learn and, like,
Yeah, it's
develop
true.
something here.
True.
So,
Yeah.
like, I'll give him 2 to 3 years at Texas Tech, to be honest. If he leaves after this year, it's like, okay, is he just going to hop around all the time? Like, I think he wants to show that he can be like, he
I
started a
mean, if
bad
somebody offers him a head coaching job, how do you stay? Right?
Yeah.
If
He's not gonna be
if Charlotte, I mean, if Charlotte came to him right now and said, "All right, we want you to come over, we'll pay you whatever," and we come coach Charlotte, sure, maybe he doesn't turn down that job. But we saw an NFL team hire Cliff Kingsbury after he got fired. So, and I'm not saying NFL teams are to come after him, but like I don't think it's great. Arizona State. What if Arizona State says, "All right, this guy is young. We need to reboot our program." Colorado wants to reboot the program. I mean, it's not out of the realm possibility. I'm with you. I think it's a year or two more, but it just speaks to like Joey McGuire picked that guy and got that guy, and that guy is succeeding. And you mentioned the CEO thing, like it's a running joke how little Dabo Swinney is involved in like the play calling and whatnot, right? It's been a running bit, and I don't think Joey's like that, but like he's kind of got the management thing, at least year one, down. And talk about momentum, like they had 2 relatively close losses back to back with Kansas State and Oklahoma State, and a ton of injuries to deal with, especially in that quarterback room. They had no idea. For them to come out and beat the hell out of West Virginia the way they did, and I know West Virginia, I mean, everybody's depleted at this point. It's not really an excuse anymore, but like that's really impressive. That speaks to something, right? Those 2 programs, they showed a little snapshot of kind of where they are at this moment in time. All right, we got to get on to the next program though. Neal Brown. Yikes! I've said my piece about this, Robbie. So I'll let you go ahead and say yours.
Yes, I think we've talked about this a lot before, but there is no reason besides a buyout that Neal Brown should be a head coach at West Virginia. We love him. We've talked to him many times. Great person. I think he does college football the right way. I think when it comes to his views on the transfer portal and how the state of college football is bad, I get it. I think he's a good person to have in front of your program, but I don't think he's a winner. He reminds me a lot of Matt Wells. Great guy, awesome guy. You want to have a beer with the man, but he doesn't win. And the thing is, you are now in year 4. You are 20-22. I think the most wins he has in a season is either 6 or 7. I believe it's 6. He has 1 bowl win, and it was from the 2020 season. You have no marquee win, I would say, in the Neal Brown era. I don't think you have a real upset that you can hang your hat on. You have talent that you don't know if it's really there. You're having your best recruiting rankings in West Virginia history, but have we seen that come forward? And then you also have some of your best players, Key Mesidor, they're just gone.
Tyke Smith.
You have a lot of great players in that program leaving. It's just you can do better than this. I think you're a program that can do better than this. People in West Virginia absolutely love West Virginia football. That is a fact. You have a program that, I don't know, it competes resource-wise with the rest of the country, but in the Big 12, they are making a commitment to Neal Brown. I think Neal Brown told us they have the 3rd best facilities in the entire Big 12 right now. So he is a quarterback that I think a coach that has built the foundation for West Virginia to be good moving forward, but I don't think he's the coach for them to win moving forward as well. So besides their buyout, there's no reason West Virginia should keep Neal Brown.
I think it goes back to last year what we talked about with TCU. What was TCU's identity last year? And then look, it's the same group of players. We're talking about the same group of players from last year to this year for TCU. What was TCU's identity last season? They didn't have any. They had none. What is it this year? Their offense is really explosive, right? They hit a ton of plays of 30 plus yards. And then also on offense, when they're not doing that, they can fall into a groove if they're not, effing around the first half. Well, they can run the ball all over you. I mean, we've seen the bunch with how good Kendra Miller and RD Mercado and Max Nugget have all been running the football. The thing about West Virginia, Robbie, there's nothing that you and I could pick out that we say they do really, really well. That sucks, right? They've had some good defenses, but this defense is not good. They've had some decent quarterback play, but this quarterback play has been up and down. This offensive line at times has been really good, right? We saw them absolutely bully last week Baylor. We didn't see it this week against Texas Tech. it's just there's nothing that's solid there, and that's the problem. We talk about recruiting, right? Things are good, but like, how much can you keep that going if number one, people are worried you're gonna get fired? Number two, like, what are you selling me on? And we like Neal Brown once again, like you mentioned, but there's nothing tangible there to sell people on right now, in my opinion. And some West Virginia fans might disagree with that. It sucks because we all love Neal Brown the same way we all love Matt Wells, but it doesn't mean it's the wrong move to make that. And look, Neal Brown's a younger guy. You go get paid, go do some TV, take some time off, whatever it is. Like, we like these guys. I struggle, Robbie, to feel bad for them when this stuff happens. All right. Because that's just kind of the business the way it is. Once again, you got families to move and all that kind of stuff. It's very, very difficult. But for guys like Neal Brown, I'm not too worried about it. I also think I'll have another coaching job somewhat soon. He was a rock star at Troy. Maybe they cut him loose. Maybe a Charlotte wants to take Neal Brown, right? Maybe that's what I mentioned. Second Charlotte mentioned this in the podcast, but maybe they want somebody from a former G5 coach who did well there to get a shout out Charlotte. So I think it's just it's time. The problem was the extension, right? And they're going to have to come with that money, and I hope they can, because I think the timing to me is really interesting. We talk about when the Big 12 is transitioning to 12 teams, right? 14, then 12. You don't want to fall behind, right? While those 4 new schools are adjusting to life in this league, if you're a current school, you want to make sure you're staying ahead as opposed to falling behind. And if they get acclimated and you're not acclimated and now you're behind the new schools, that's a tough place to be. And I think West Virginia is in a spot right now where that is a potential reality.
Yeah, and I'm not calling for everyone's job here, but we look at the 2 main sports at West Virginia, football and men's basketball. You were heading into the last year, 2 years for Bob Huggins.
It's getting down to them there.
And right now Bob Huggins will never get fired. Like, I just want to know, but like, I don't see a path for West Virginia to have success right now, because I don't think they've truly adapted what college basketball is now. And that is getting really good transfers and also like being old. And like, I don't think West Virginia is really there, and they're losing a lot of their top talent. I think they're going to be a bottom 5 team in the Big 12 this season. Basketball talk. Can't believe we're doing this. But I really think it's time for like just a fresh change there. Like, I think now it's coming to the point, like what's happening at Oklahoma, like, and even kind of TCU when they got Jamie Dixon, like, you just need to start new. You're heading to this new Big 12. Things are kind of stale right now. You need to get a better football coach. You need to have a better basketball coach. Bob Huggins is obviously amazing. I don't want to get slander from West Virginia fans, but like, you need new direction somewhere. So West Virginia, like, sports in general right now, needs to like decide what their identity is going to be heading into the new Big 12. And it kind of needs to start now.
I agree. One more thing. Baylor is weird. You can't figure him out. I haven't figured out. I don't know why you're not listening to me about this. I've told you who Baylor is, Robbie, and you just won't listen to me. You won't listen.
I just don't get it. Like, I just really don't get it. This team is by far the most confusing team in the entire league. I don't get it. Like, they're
not confusing though. I keep telling you what they are. You won't listen to me. They're inconsistent. They're just not there yet.
But it's just like I don't know what to
make.
That's
what happened the other day. They lost focus. They could have buried Kansas. Robbie, they were running like bubble screens on 3rd and 12 because they knew Kansas couldn't tackle them. They couldn't get to the football and stop them. They had the speed advantage. They had the talent advantage on the outside. And what happened? I think they lost focus because this is a newish group, and Blake Shapen is not coming along as fast as we all think he is. It's not hard. It's not rocket science. I know you wanted them to be good. I know you love Baylor, but they're just not the team that we all thought they were going to be. They're not.
I just think the coaching is way too good for this team to just be so meh. Like meh is maybe kind of hard to say, but it's like, I don't think this team's going to like push to make a Big 12 title run this year. I don't think they have the talent. I think they're too young. And it's just like, watching them, I'm like, you guys could just be better. I watch it and I'm just like, there's more than what's happening. Like, the potential here is too great for you guys to just be like kind of meh. Like, you play Kansas, but like towards the end of that game, I'm like, holy crap, like Kansas is going to come back. That's a team that kind of wanted it a little more. And then look on the sidelines and like, Baylor's just like a funny team to watch because you look on the sidelines and they're always jumping. They're always jumping up and down. Dave Aranda sometimes smacking butts. And it's like, what is going on here? Like, it feels like kind of like fake what's going on there. And I look at the fans and I'm like, all right, I don't even think they really care right now. The fans are like, it's just like Baylor's so confusing. This team has so much potential and it's just like, meh. I don't understand them.
It is funny to watch them. Like, when Kansas was going on that run, I'm not sure if you saw this the other day, but Kansas is going on that run, and they show Rand on the sideline, and like Kansas about to kick off, and like all the players are swaying and stuff, and it's like,
Yeah, they're doing the swag surf.
I'm like, you guys are just getting like housed right now. You let this team who's like depleted and has got like, is getting dog walked every week, in the first half of games, come back. Like we've seen it 4 times. Like we're seeing it over and over and over again. Kansas is starting so slow in like all of their games, and you guys need to put them away. And they're like, you know what? We'll just let the comeback happen. It was like watching an NBA game. You're like, I know Team X is going to come back. I Kansas just comes back and makes it a game. It's like, put them away. 28-3 at halftime. And they didn't, they scored in the third quarter. I forgot. Like they barely did if they did.
Also, just a random observation I've seen. I don't think I've ever seen Dave Aranda open his mouth on the sideline. He's always standing there with his arms crossed by himself, just like looking around,
squinting, looking concerned.
I've never heard him say a single word. Like, I don't know how he communicates with other. I think he just stares at them and
sign language, American Sign Language is what he's using. Yeah.
Like they just like kind of know, like, okay, coach, yes. So like I don't know how that team works. It's just like people are just jumping randomly and then they're just like getting scored on. And then Dave Aranda just sits there and does nothing. In the press conference, he's like, yeah, well, we could have played better. It's like this team is just like a little weird to me right now.
I think one off season, if they keep a lot of these guys and get 1 or 2 pickups in the transfer portal, I think this team is right back in the conversation for being a Big 12 title contender next year. I think they are right back there if they just get some. And look,
also,
we'll see.
Kyron Drones too, like, honestly, I think they might have to make a decision. Like, I'm
not.
Whoa!
I'm not there. Maybe have a package for him.
Yeah, I do, but I think like I'm not saying he's better than Blake Shapen, but I think like the future, like I don't know.
I think people had too high expectations for Blake Shapen coming in, and he's not meeting them. And so now we're asking
Gary Bohannon. That's what happens. Like they did that to them.
Okay, but that choice was not made for this. Maybe some people think that. It's made for the next 2 or 3 years. You're saying our offense as a whole has to get better, and you can't argue this. Their offense is more dynamic now than it was last year. It's just not as consistent. Or actually, I would say it's probably just as consistent as last year's offense, because last year's offense was very consistent. But like it's just not consistently more dynamic, right? It's not producing the results that we thought it would, all the time. They're loose with the rock. They don't keep up the pressure. I mean, there were 2 separate offenses in the first and second half last week.
Yeah. And I'm not
I will say that they did get the drives they needed to put away the game, which I thought was somewhat encouraging. But like you could have done that in the third quarter.
One thing that's not weird about Baylor though is Richard Reese. He's an absolute beast.
He's awesome.
I think the future of him and honestly, they just have to afraid he doesn't get poached. I don't think Baylor's a program. I think they're going to keep them because like what I've seen from them throughout Dave Aranda's tenure is like they don't really like lose people. Like I think last year they had the fewest like people who left their program to the transfer portal. But like that's a player that like if I'm a major program, I'm like, all right, how do we get this guy? Because he's incredible.
You don't see a whole lot of top. Like I know Zach Evans left, but I think that was more of a personality.
Yeah, he was just a
situation.
Weird, he was at Georgia, and then he was.
And look, it worked out a lot for them with Kendra Miller. But like Oklahoma and Texas, they've got some jumbling, but you don't see a ton of turnover. I think, in my opinion, at least on the offensive side for a lot of these teams, the Big 12. I mean, you didn't see any of the Iowa State guys who definitely could have left for greener pastures, right? Didn't see them go. You haven't seen a lot of Baylor guys go other places, so on and so forth. So there's that. All right,
I didn't mean to throw that either, but I just think he's that good.
He looks really good.
I'm saying he's going to leave him.
Yeah, no, we're not trying to say he's going to leave. It's just like you get concerned, right? We see Jahmyr Gibbs at Alabama. We know. All right, Robbie, where can people find you and your work and all of its variety?
Big 12 Radio, SiriusXM channel 375. Josh and I do an amazing job on Big 12 today from 2 to 5 Central. You can follow me on Twitter at the Triano Kid. And if you like college basketball, Big 12 basketball, I have something coming in the works next 2 weeks. I think you'll like that.
It's exciting. All right, Robbie Triano, we appreciate your time as always. We'll talk to you next week.
Awesome. Talk to you soon.